everybody. Just thought I'd do a quick video because I saw a lot of questions in the comments about running downwind and the sail plans and everything that I use. So I figured I would put together a bunch of clips and we could talk about different strategies for sailing downwind in heavy weather. Here we go.
All right, here we are aboard Mighty Sparrow in the Southern Ocean. Oh man. So before we begin this video, I do want to make sure that everybody knows all boats are going to perform differently in different conditions. What I'm able to do on a Westsail 32 may not work out properly for you and your boat in whatever weather conditions you're going through. So it's very important to make sure that you test out and try different sail combinations and everything to make sure that you can be as safe as possible out on the sea when the weather gets pretty ugly. Now, running in a gale is one of my favorite things to do. It's exciting, it's fun, it's fast, and the Westsail 32 allows me to do quite a few things differently than other boats, mostly utilizing the mainsail instead of a headsail. And part of the reason I believe for that is that the mast is very far forward on the boat, and also I have a full-length keel, which allows the boat to track really well when surfing waves. We're really rolling all the time, but we're also moving forward, and we're not yawing around in sort of a snake pattern down these waves. We typically are running pretty well in a straight line. I like to also have a plan A, B, C, and D for when the weather changes, and it's important to always test out different combinations of sail to make sure that you can change as the weather changes so that you can stay safe out there and keep running with the storm and enjoying it. In lighter winds, I'm pretty much trying to just balance my rig as best as possible when I'm running. So in this condition, I have the full mainsail and I've pulled out the staysail just to balance things out. This allows the wind vane, Mongo, to be able to not have to work too hard, keep the tiller right in the center, and we're pretty much able to just head straight downwind. As long as there's enough wind to keep those sails full, I can deal with sort of the sloppy leftover conditions that I'm dealing with here. And besides the roll of the boat, which you get very used to, it pretty much just tracks straight downwind. I could do the same thing with just the mainsail if the wind is high enough, and in this conditions, I have to fine tune the wind vane just a bit to sort of counterbalance the fact that there's only one sail and it's on one side of the boat. But again, because it's a full-length keel and because that mast is really far forward, it pretty much tracks really well. If it starts to yaw around and go in sort of a twisting motion, that's typically when I either downsize or I try and balance the rig. Now into the heavy weather. So I'm down to triple reefed mainsail here. I do have the storm jib ready to fly up on the staysail stay, but in these conditions, when the winds are up in the 30 to 40 knot range, this is when it gets pretty exciting. I have the sail sheeted all the way out, the boom preventer is on, it's not super tight, and I'm pretty much trying to sail about 10 degrees off of dead downwind. This allows me to take the sting out of the wind a little bit. I'm also going in the direction I want to go, and Sparrow can surf the waves pretty well and avoid most of the breakers from actually coming on board and getting in the cockpit. Now I do have to really pay attention to the wind vane. You can see in the lower part of the screen there is the hydro blade, the blade that's in the water, and that's pretty much its rudder. I really keep an eye on that, making sure that it's not bottoming out and hitting that lower strut on either side. And that just kind of gives me an indication that we're pretty well balanced. I've tweaked the tiller and where it's connected to the wind vane just about right so that that rudder is staying right in the center most of the time, whether or not we're going backwards or forwards as far as with the waves. And it really is a big tell, and it's something I pay attention to all the time. I'm constantly readjusting as the wind and waves change. But really, I'm just trying to pay attention as much as possible to the wind vane because it really is telling me. Now, here's a great example of a close call to a jibe. In 70,000 miles, we've only crash jibed 4 times. And so that sort of is proof in the pudding, so to speak. But I'm kind of doing something stupid. I'm up here trying to film these waves, and I really shouldn't be up there because it is really dangerous. Again, triple reefed, just the mainsail. We're going to find out how close we can get and actually not jibe this boat. The wave kind of kicks us over. We almost jibe, and now I'm going back to the cockpit. Kind of feeling like an idiot, but I survived to sail another day. So those are just some of the strategies that I like to do. In the last clip coming up here is in a pretty ugly gale, and I'm down below talking about what's going on, but essentially when I can't use the main, when there's too much wind out there, I end up putting up the storm jib and I keep it sheeted hard amidships, and that's how I sort of ride out when the winds get up above the 40s and things get really out of hand.
I wanted to try out some stuff before, you know, I get to the horn. Wow, boy, everything's just shaking. Right now I've just got the storm jib up, sheeted hard right to midships, and that's just up there holding the bow down. And we're doing 4.5 knots, which is not bad, because that's a tiny sail. I don't know what the footage is on it, but it's super tiny. I was trying to put the triple reefed main back up, because the one thing that when I slow down to about 4 knots, then if I do get a big breaker, it really hits the boat pretty hard, and I don't like that. So I like to put up enough sail to keep me right about 6-7 knots in this sort of stuff, and that way I sort of escape most of the bad breakers and everything. But another huge squall's coming right now, and so I just ducked down below.
Well, I hope that was helpful for some of you, and hopefully maybe it got a little bit of information out of that video. Just a couple of notes. As far as a sea anchor or a drogue, I actually don't even carry one on board. I'm very afraid of running one of those things out and having it get tangled up with my wind vane. And so I choose to try and become as proficient as possible with things like Hove 2. I've never tried lying a hull, but I know exactly what you need to do for it. And mostly I just try and run with things and utilize the sails and the boat itself. Just because I've heard a few stories about wind vanes getting mangled when drogue lines get wrapped around them. So that's just my opinion on them, and again, it's just because of this boat and specifically how it's set up. Now, I do have about 200 feet of really heavy-duty line, and I always thought that I could tie off an anchor to that and at least stream that behind the boat to slow me down a bit. So I have yet to encounter conditions where I felt like I needed to do that. I will say the one time I did have to go bare poles was only for about half an hour, and it was near the Gulf Stream where we got hit by basically a microburst, and the winds went from 30 knots up to about 70 for about 20 minutes. And that was one occasion where I had to rip every sail down I had as quickly as possible and just go with it. And there was enough pressure on just the mast to be able to keep us going at about 4 or 5 knots, which was unbelievable. But yeah, to wrap things up, thank you all so much. Hopefully you did get something out of this video, and thank you so much for all the support and everything that everybody's shown with the growth of the channel. So have a great day, and thanks.